Minecraft has a wide variety of monsters in the game, some scarier than others, some are actually kinda cute, but if you want to see them all, you've got to travel far and wide and even travel to different dimensions. So I had an idea. You might have seen recently that I built a zoo for every animal in Minecraft, so I thought, hey, why not build an evil monster zoo for every hostile mob in Minecraft? And that's exactly what we're going to do today, and this is where we're going to do it. I found this remote mushroom island only accessible by boat, which I thought would be the perfect location to house the most dangerous mobs in Minecraft. We're going to build an enclosure for every creature, catering to their every need, replicating their natural habitat. But first, we need to do a little bit of spring cleaning to make the island suitable for constructing our hostile mob zoo. I'm just going to clear out all of the mushrooms and level out the terrain slightly, leaving some of the variation in height, so it's not just a flat, boring piece of land. Then it's time to plan out the sections in which we're going to build all of our enclosures, splitting the island into 3 sections, one for each dimension in Minecraft. So this is the plan. In the blue area you can see we're going to build our arrival docks where all the guests will arrive by boat. No need for a ticket booth, they've already bought their tickets online of course. In the green section is where we'll house all of our overworld mobs, including zombies, drowned, husks, skeletons, spiders, cave spiders, witches, strays, ravagers, phantoms, slimes and of course the dreaded warden. In the red zone we're going to place all of our nether mobs like the piglins, hoglins, blazers, wither skeletons and magma cubes, and in the yellow zone we're going to place all of our end mobs like the shulkers and endermites. I'd love to include the endermen, but they're basically impossible to trap. I guess teleportation has its perks. Right, let's crack on with the build. First up is our arrival docks. We're going to use quite a dark block palette throughout the zoo to give it a bit of an evil feel, so I'm going to use deep slate bricks and tough bricks for the paving. We're going to add 4 different piers to the docks and then add a canopy over the middle using deep slate tiles for the roof. We're then going to begin to build a path over to the main island. Then we're going to continue the path over a deep slate bridge, sloping up slowly to our grand entrance to the zoo. For the entrance I wanted to have a big impact on the guests, so I thought why not build a giant skull. So using calcite and diorite I built a huge skull with the entrance being through its open mouth. Spooky. Now it's time for our first enclosure, and I thought I'd have a pretty basic mob at the entrance and add the zombie enclosure. Now I wanted to create a bit of a prison cell for the zombies, which the visitors could peek in through the bars and maybe even feed them some nice flesh on a stick, at an extra cost of course. I made sure to add a roof to the cell and then added some blood splatters on the floor, and then of course we added the undead themselves. Then, next door, we're going to build the drowned tank. We're going to stick with the deep slate retaining wall and then add some sand and some natural underwater features like rocks and plants. We're going to add a nice glass front so our guests can see the drowned swimming around. We're then going to temporarily add a cover to the tank so it's easier to fill with water, add in some extra features like a treasure chest, some more rocks and stuff like that, and then finally add in our aquatic zombies. Next up we've got our husks. Now we're going to have a little change of colour here to make the husks feel at home. We're going to build a small enclosure with some sandstone, creating the inside of a tomb. Then we're going to add some glass at the front and build a lovely little pyramid on the roof so the husks feel at least a little bit important. We'll add some details inside and then we'll add a couple of our crispy little zombie friends. Then next door we're going to build our stray enclosure. We're going to create a snowy cave for our stray to live in using snow on the floor and some rocks on the back and the ceiling. We'll keep it nice and dark for our stray, add some extra snow and rocks to make it feel more natural, and then finally add a viewing window at the front for our guests. We'll add a singular stray in here which I don't think you'll mind, and I think you'll be very happy in here, don't you? On the opposite side, we're going to build our spider enclosure. We're going to keep things nice and simple here and just create a nice natural environment for our spiders to live in. We're going to pop an oak tree in the middle, as well as some nice rocks and spider webs around it, add a copper trapdoor ceiling to stop them crawling out, and then a nice glass viewing window for our guests to see them. Lovely. Next up is the cave spiders. Now, as you know, in Minecraft the only place you can find cave spiders is surprisingly not in a cave. It's in an abandoned mineshaft. So in this enclosure we're going to create a miniature mineshaft replicating the natural habitat. We'll add some columns of the logs and a little platform for their nest of cobwebs. We're going to add a little waterfall in the corner and a few railway tracks to make them feel at home. We'll add an oak trapdoor roof to stop any escaping, and then it's finally time to add these poisonous little critters into their new home. Now for the slimes. We can leave the roof off this enclosure as slimes don't burn in the sun, and we're going to create a lovely little swamp zone for them to live in, just like the natural world of Minecraft. We're going to texture up the floor a little bit with some mud and some dirt and add in some pools of water. We'll add in our own little mini mangrove tree, some extra bushes, and then a little viewing platform on the front so our guests can get a good look at our cute but dangerous little slimes. Next up, the skeletons. I wanted to build a sort of graveyard enclosure for our skeletons to live in, adding some dark oak trees, a sort of cemetery or churchyard wall at the front for people to peek through the railings, and then of course the all important gravestones. We'll add a couple of candles in there too to add some atmosphere, and then we can pop in a few of our bony friends. Shame they've got nobody to live in there with. Get it? Never mind. The Ravager is up next with a simple little paddock enclosure. My thinking was, the less things in the enclosure, the less things there is to smash up. We're going to add lovely little path block flooring and add an iron railing wall at the front with a little viewing platform as well. Break up the walls a little bit where it's been headbutting it and add a little water trough as well. And then finally add in our Ravager. Now, for this one, I was really showing my naivety when it came to the warden. I thought it would be fine to just pop this ferocious monster in this little enclosure, pop a bit of skulk in there, and everything would be fine. It wasn't fine. The warden got very angry straight away and started shouting at his neighbours through the walls, actually killing them. So what did I do? I decided to wrap him up in wool. Did this work? Absolutely not. I discovered this enclosure just wasn't going to work for the warden. Then I had an idea. I saw this tiny little island not far from the main zoo island, which I thought would be the perfect place to house the warden. No one around to shout at, and it was the opportunity to make more money from guests by charging them for a boat trip out here to see him, keeping it a safe distance of course. So I just built a deep slate and iron railing wall around him, added some skulk to the floor, and I think our warden is happy here. He can't see anyway, so how will he know he's out in the middle of the ocean? After we moved the warden, we had a bit more room to extend this enclosure, which was going to house our witch. I wanted to create another swamp-like enclosure for the witch, and even decided to build her a lovely little witch's hut for her to hide in. I added more natural features to the enclosure, and I think this enclosure is probably the one that I'd choose to live in if I was a hostile mob. Then, time to pop in the witch, and I hope she doesn't throw potions over the fence at our guests. Next, I wanted to create a glass aviary for our phantoms to fly around in. I put them over here next to the skeletons and created a diagonal tall enclosure with tinted glass and a roof so they didn't burn in the sunlight. It's got a lovely big glass front so our guests can see the phantoms flying around, and I even added a couple of trees in there for them to nest in. Do they even nest? I don't know, but it looks nice. And then it's time to pop in a couple of our noisy flying monsters. Now it's time for the one that I think a lot of people will come and want to see, the creeper. I wanted to put the creeper in the middle here as a bit of a centrepiece and have him in a sort of glass dome sort of enclosure. The creeper is probably the most iconic Minecraft mob, and I wanted to put him on a bit of a pedestal for everyone to see. we're going to pop in a singular creeper in here, just so if he does decide to explode, he'll only kill a couple of guests and not create too much damage. Now it's time to move into the Nether Zone. I wanted to create a bit of an entranceway to let the guests know they were entering a different dimension, so I created a black stone arch with 2 columns either side, and on top of each one we added some fire and some soul fire. I love this feature and I think it really adds to the atmosphere of the zoo. Now for the first Nether Enclosure, I wanted to make a sort of larger natural nether area where we could put the piglins and the hoglins. Obviously I knew they were going to zombify as they're in the overworld, but that was something I was fine with. What I did forget about though is that the piglins actually hunt the hoglins, so once I put them in there in the same enclosure they obviously started to fight. So as much as this was probably very entertaining for our guests, it's also very dangerous, so I did have to put an iron fence between them, but overall I'm pretty happy with this Nether Enclosure. Then next door I wanted to create the inside of a nether fortress, for you guessed it, the wither skeletons. With nether brick I added some details to the walls and then added some torches and a lovely grey glass view window at the front, and of course a roof to keep it nice and dingy in there for them. Then we'll add a few of our tall, skinny friends. Now for the blazes. I wanted to create another taller glass enclosure, this time a more round one, so the blaze could fly around. I wanted to also create the natural habitat by building a little section of the nether fortress where they're usually found in the natural world. I added a slab trim around the top of the glass walls and changed things up a bit with the roof and added some trapdoors to keep them contained in the glass atrium. Then it's time to add in the blaze. Next up is the Magma Cubes. I created a basalt terrain with some magma blocks leading into a fiery hot pool of lava. I built up the walls around so they wouldn't jump out, but again, showing my naivety, I had to extend them slightly as we did have a couple of escapees, but I do think they'll be nice and happy in this hot enclosure. Now it's time to move on to the next dimension and add in some end mobs. Now, when I first planned this zoo, I must have overcounted the enclosures, so we need to shrink down the area as you only need space for the Endermites and the Shulkers. So starting with the Endermites, we're going to create a little enclosure here with endstone on the ground and simply surround it with some endstone walls. And then we can pop in our bitey, but quite cute, Endermites. And then finally we come to the Shulker enclosure. Now as you know, Shulkers don't do a whole lot of moving around, so I didn't have to do a lot to keep these strange little creatures contained. I wanted to make the enclosure seem part of the end city, so I built the surrounding internal walls with purpur blocks and endstone bricks. Then we're simply going to pop in our Shulkers. I must admit, they're not the most exciting creatures to come and see in the zoo, are they? Now that we've added in all of the hostile creatures, I wanted to finish off the zoo with a few extra details. Firstly, I added a perimeter of spruce trees all around the island just to keep the zoo a bit more contained, and it really sets it into the landscape better. It also makes it look a bit more ominous and scary. Then I wanted to go through the entire zoo and add a path blocks and tough stairs just to make the zoo more established and not covered completely in ugly mycelium blocks. I added some little posts with torches around the zoo as well, just to illuminate the place up a little bit, and I think you'll agree it really finishes the place off nicely. And there we have it, our hostile mob zoo is complete. We've rescued all of the most dangerous creatures in Minecraft, put them in a zoo and opened it to the public. What could go wrong? It was a lot harder than I originally thought, but I'm pleased with how it turned out and I hope you enjoy watching me build it. If you want to visit the zoo yourself, you can download the world file over on my Patreon. Just click the link in the description, and thank you to all my Patreons over there. You're so amazing and your support is seriously appreciated. Let me know down below which was your favourite enclosure, and don't forget to press that subscribe button so you don't miss the next video. If you haven't already checked it out, go watch my friendly animal zoo video as well. It's definitely a lot less dangerous. But that's all we've got time for today, so thank you so much for watching, and until next time, Tatty bye.